What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Kings Speak. This is where men have the opportunity to discuss important topics such as brotherhood, manhood, self-mastery, relationships, and emotional intelligence. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Jaimi Alexander, and the topic for today is bonded by trauma. Guys, are we bonding over trauma? Are we really actually compatible with people, or are we bonding over trauma? Just because we hurt the same doesn't mean that we love the same. So I have two very special guests. Yes, two. Hey, with me today so we can talk about this subject. One, you guys may have seen him before, but he's an author, speaker, motivational speaker, suicide prevention expert, Cyrus Ausar. And then, of course, our neuropsychologist, Dr. Ryeal Sims. He is the relationship scientist. So it was really important for us, I say this month, to focus on relationships. Last month, we kind of focused on sex, whether it was sex abuse, men cheating, games, and all of these things. And now let's focus on what it takes and how we're approaching relationships. And are we doing it in a healthy way? So let's see. If you're not already following Kings Speak on Instagram, please do so now. All right. We got one of our guests in here. On to stream.
What's going on?
All right. Let's make sure we got the sound this time.
Do you hear me?
No, I don't know why every time you come in the first second I can't hear you.
I don't know. You don't hear me still?
Let's see. Oh.
Yo.
Nope.
Do you still nothing? Nothing?
Oh.
I don't know. I can log out and log back in.
I'm sure. I think the people can hear you, but I can't. So I don't know. Hold on. Yeah, let's see. Okay, while we work on getting him back in here. See if I can see what's up with this audio. Audio. All right, everything looks good. Let's try this again. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, sometimes with this, we don't get audio right away, but that's okay. You guys know how that goes. You'll stick with us and we'll nail it eventually. All right. All right, guys, we're just getting our guest in here. Here he is. Let's hope I can hear him.
Do you hear me? Do you hear me now? Still no sound? Nothing?
Hey, Max Sunny Rose in the house.
You still don't hear me?
I don't know why I can't hear. Let me see if I refresh my page, if that's gonna help anything. Okay, let's see. Can I hear you?
Can you?
Yes.
Oh, it was your fault.
It's me, not you. Dang, StreamYard got me out here like this. Okay. What's going on, Cyrus?
I'm doing good. I just got done working out. Now I'm eating my breakfast. Let me turn this up.
Yeah,
just got done working out. Now I'm eating my breakfast. I'm prepared for the day. I look forward to this conversation.
You. I love that. I'll work out after this. Yeah. Well, good. I'm excited to talk with you about this. This was inspired by one of your posts. By stop thinking that shared trauma is compatibility, and I love that because I think it's something that we do more often than we think. So I see our other guest is in here, I believe, or maybe that was you. Okay, I don't see him yet, but yeah, I thought that was really important because, again, we try to have topics on here that aren't often talked about, and a lot of the stuff that we discuss and we're kind of finding out are game-changing, transformative ideas because we don't talk about it enough. And I think a lot of people are bonding over trauma and they don't realize it. So what
Definitely.
inspired the post for you? Like, where did that come from, and what's your experience with that?
Well, it came from seeing the consistency of it. Usually, when you grow up in an environment, you have a conversation, and you'll end up in a relationship based on your conversation of relatability. And the conversation of relatability stems from what you've been through. So we all, in our environment, we relate even on music. So we like Tupac, and he might say in the song, "I'm hopeless," and I relate to that. I really feel it in my chest. Like, I feel exactly like I wake up in the morning and I ask myself, if life worth living, should I blast? You like, oh, I really feel that. And even when you meet other people that like Tupac's music as well, on the same song, the same everything, you connect with them, but you're connecting based upon that subject matter. So it's easy to carry out conversations because y'all end up becoming each other's counselors to some degree. You listen to me talking about what I'm going through and my struggles. You talk about your struggles. I can connect with it. And next thing you know, you look up, a little bit of fun happen. You look up, you in a relationship, so that was what inspired the post.
Yeah, it's so true. You know, it does. It happens a lot. And that's such a good analogy. Something as simple as music. Oh, we share this. Now we're talking about this. Now we're in a conversation that we think is just so deep, and it really might be. But what do you think? Um, when a relationship starts like this, what do you think are some of the signs and triggers of the relationship not having the foundation that it needs? How can you identify that you indeed have bonded over trauma and heartbreak versus a genuine connection?
You'll know because you'll get tired of the conversations. Because because let's just say I met you where the conversation exists on the trauma. I could be further along in my process than you. So we met here. Our conversations is great here, but 2 months down the line, I'm like, listen, I'm just reflecting upon where I was. I still built my business. I still travel. I still do this. Oh, you still living there? I was just visiting. You know, so you still there. So now when the conversations persist, you be like, oh, here you go with this again. Like you almost get to a point that you don't even feel like hearing it, or you want to switch the subject, but yet that person hasn't overcame it yet. They met you at a base of where you once were. You were visiting, and then as I said, you might go to concerts, you might have fun, you do this, and before you look up, you're in a relationship. But on those down times, you still talk about those issues, and if you overcame it, you no longer want to talk about it. And that's one of the things that will trigger somebody when you be like, I don't even want to talk to this person no more, or you don't want to talk to them about certain subject matter because you feel like it's going to bleed to this. And once that's shut down, communication is the backbone of everything as far as relationship wise. So once any forms of communication break down, it's going to break down everywhere else too.
Yeah, that's so true. And then you think too, when you put it that way, when you're talking about the conversations and people being in different spaces in their healing journey, you know, it's almost also like too, well, how do you heal if the person that you're with day in, day out, and like you said, the conversations are so connected to things that you're trying to overcome? I feel like there's probably times where that keeps people in their stuff longer because they're just rehashing, regurgitate. Like it's
Yeah,
just coming up.
some people honestly, I'm gonna say it on your show, but some people honestly get high off of pity. They literally do. They're not looking to overcome anything. They just want to find who they can bleed on and love who can become a band-aid for it. That's it. They literally just want to bleed on somebody, you band-aid, you nurture them, all that. And they love that feeling because they may have never got it in their youth or from their mother or their father. And they connect with that. And then that's what you become. We see it, when a man will become a dad for a woman, or a woman become a mom for a guy. So that's another thing, but just wanted to share.
Yeah, energy vampires. Somebody in the chat, Max Sunny Rose said, energy vampires.
Definitely.
And those really do exist. And it's so unfortunate. This is why I love talking about self-mastery over, healing, wisdom, because we all carry childhood trauma and wounds and bruises and all of these things. But if we're not actively working to pull that thing up by the roots, it's going to show up in every aspect of our
Everything.
lives.
You can't cut corners. The more corners you cut, you just gonna have a circle, and that just runs just like this.
You just cut.
Yeah, before you know it,
End
you're
up
gonna have
right
a
back where you
circle, and then it's
started.
just gonna be exactly like that. That's gonna be your life.
It's so true. And I don't think a lot of people are able to recognize it because we're just now starting to normalize, so to speak, some of these conversations with people. So for you personally, what are a few red flags that stand out for you when talking to a woman? I know what my red flags are, and it's very easy to just be like, and it comes from some of my past experiences and my intuition and common sense. So what are some of your red flags when you are dating and meet a woman?
Do you want me? I was kind of like trying to keep my answers back because I thought the doctor was joining, but I can
I
open
know,
up
I'm
all
like,
the
where's
way.
the doctor?
You know, I can open up all the way. I was just more or less trying to give subtle answers right now, but I can go all the way there if we need to right now.
Go all the way. He's not here, so you know.
I'm sorry. Can you ask the question again with some red flags?
Yeah, so when you're dating, what are some of the red flags that come up for you, or what do you consider as red flags when you're dating a woman, meeting a woman, or moving forward with someone?
Honestly, it's the respect for yourself, and how and what efforts are you making to become better. We all somewhere. I can't judge nobody at their plight in life. It doesn't matter what it is. You might come from drug abuse, you might come from whatever, and that's fine. That's where you were. But what efforts are you making to be better than you once were? Are you just talking? You know, because over time you can talk to somebody for a week and you can see flags right then and there. Are you one of those people that's literally like, you know what, I'm about to get in shape, I'm about to get on top of it, I'm about to do this, I'm gonna do this, and then throughout the whole week you never got in the gym, you never went outside, you never. I was like, for me, one of the biggest red flags is just people that talk. If you just talk, that doesn't no. You have to put some form of actionable steps behind it, even if it is very small. Just anything that indicates I'm trying to be better. Because I can work with anybody that's trying to be better in any form, because I want you to be able to polish me too. What about the things that I'm lacking in? So if you're not trying to better yourself, you're not ever going to try and give me no information to better me. So we're not going to be nowhere. So that's what I look at. That's one of the biggest things is how do you respect yourself, and what steps are you moving to make sure yourself is better. And are you doing any of that? And that, like I said, I don't want to judge nobody. So we all in all the different walks of life. We all in different levels. So those two fundamental questions is, to me, is like red flags: respecting yourself and steps to be better.
I like that. I actually really like that a lot. I'll share something. I think we have Dr. Ryeal in the building. He's here. Let's see how this works. I've never done 3. Here we go. Oh, well, look at us. What's up, Ryeal?
Hey, what's happening? Technology.
No, I can't hear. Can you hear him, Cyrus?
I hear him.
Let me refresh because I can't hear him. And yes, Sunny in the chat said to you, Cyrus, don't hold back, and self-respect keeps you woke, and iron sharpens iron, which is very true. Okay, let me.
Yeah, I would. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, man?
I'm doing good. I think she just got a refresh because she couldn't hear you.
Okay.
She couldn't hear me as well. So we were just talking, answering a few questions. I wanted to. I didn't want to open up till you got here.
Okay.
Can I hear you now, Ryeal?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yay!
Oh, you can hear me? Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, Ryeal, Cyrus, Ryeal. Sorry about that little refresh.
All right.
So Ryeal, while you're joining in, we just got finished talking about bonding over trauma. I know the term trauma bonding, which we can talk about, really signifies when people are staying in relationships because of that void that they have in them. Maybe it's like a masochistic type situation, but bonding over trauma, when you meet somebody, you know, we got to stop mistaking shared trauma for compatibility. And that's something that Cyrus posted, and it inspired me to talk to you guys. So now that you're here, on a scientific level, with what happens in our minds and our chemicals and our reactions, what is it that draws us to someone who shares the same pain as we do, and how do we identify that that's the way that we've bonded with someone?
Yeah. Shared bonding, I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but we are attracted to someone who that's familiar to each other. And that was back in the primitive days. And even still, we are attracted to someone that we may feel familiar to, but it's because we do great amongst a tribe that's similar to ourselves, right? There was a study, I don't know if I can remember exactly how, there was a study where they took a group of people, a group of kids, and they had them to identify a certain thing, a certain painful bonding task, right? And they had another group to also do the exact same thing. And they put their hands in cold water and touch this metal, right? And the ones that experienced the cold metal in the water, they found themselves bonding to each other versus the ones who didn't experience it, right? So they became like brothers, like military, right? Because we found in research that although we're going through the same pain, we're in war, we're shooting and risking our lives, right? They bond together. Now that doesn't mean because they bond that if we got into a relationship that we're going to have a vitalized, harmonious, cohesive working relationship. So it doesn't do that. And you're right with your statement of saying that sometimes we mistake, right, shared pain with a relationship, with emotional relationship, that everything is going to be great because we have something in common, right? And what happens is what's going on in the brain and biologically what's happening. It's something that I've mentioned even about relationships. And I don't know if you remember me mentioning something that's called the major histocompatibility complex.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our body looking for the opposite match. But what happens is we think our spirit and our frequency, when we meet someone that is similar to ourselves, like, oh, you were abused too by your husband? I was too. And that bonds you together. Still doesn't mean that you're going to have a good friendship with that person, right? You're just joining in, creating your tribe. You're creating a tribe, a network. And this happens all the time,
Yeah.
right? This happens all the time when we think that because we experience the same pain, that means we're going to be really good friends, and we're going to have a really good relationship, right? But truly what it is identifying a relationship versus shared pain is, again, it's two separate things, separate things, because our major histocompatibility complex is saying our DNA, our immune system has chemistry, but there's no chemistry in shared bonding. There's no chemistry in that. There's just you have familiar characteristics as I do, but we get that mixed up as to this is chemistry. And that's not how it works. Chemistry works totally different than that. Chemistry actually works from our immune system, our DNA, our major histocompatibility complex, and our human leukocyte antigens. And our human leukocyte antigens is our DNA that's actually looking for the opposite match. That's saying this person is totally great. What else is it looking for? It's looking for, is this person healthy? Is this person mentally stable? Is this person fertile?
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so no, that makes perfect sense. And I love having you on because, like you said, people get confused with, is this real chemistry? Is this a spiritual thing? Or is this bonding? Cyrus kind of talked about it. And one of the signs for him is when he can tell that it's getting old, or identifying that it's trauma bonding over something rooted in real, is the conversations get stale. At some point, somebody outgrows somebody else, or you're always rehashing, the same trauma. We do have a question in the chat. Sunny says, Dr. Sims, what are your thoughts on the impact of the Black experience and bonding over that trauma versus genuine connection?
What experience? Our slave experience?
Well, the impact of the Black experience, I would say just the experience of being Black in America and African American, whatever that means. I mean, there's a lot of different facets to that, but that's just what she put. So, like,
well, I mean, the same thing too. The same thing of us experiencing that same, us experiencing the racism, everything. The thing that we have to be careful with that, experiencing that same shared pain, is that we don't become group thinkers along with that. Because what happens is, again, we create that tribe, right? So when we create that tribe, we might also create something that is not really there, right? Because we may easily say, oh my God, that's racist, right? And you will say, oh my God, that sure is racist, right? Because we shared the same pain, right? And we have to be careful with that, because we just may be in the group thinking phase, right? And we bond. And so you believe with that person, because we also take on our beliefs system, right? So that's another thing that we have to be careful with. And if we are aware of it, then we have to be responsible as African Americans to let one know, no, okay, I know we experience the same racist pain that's going on, but however, that person just made a mistake. That's not racism.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Cyrus? Because I know you're a real straight shooter when it comes to the shared pain, like Sunny was saying, when it comes to the Black experience, whether it's in a romantic relationship or brotherhood, are you finding that, we're bonding over trauma such as the African American experience in America?
I think it's a mixture. I mean, that statement is kind of absolute. I think it's kind of a mixture. Yeah, there is some bonding through the struggle, as always, because we're in our community. We see the police abuse, we see the police brutality, we see the domestic abuse that's happening in our house, we see crack sales, we see all these different types of things. And even when I look at a lot of the people that grew up in my community that seen their dad selling dope, and the young woman usually grow up and hook up with a drug dealer. So, I mean, it depends on the severity of, that question is, I would have to be more like specific. I don't know how to answer that question, because it's more or less like,
I can say this. Sometimes, sorry, so loud. Sometimes, as a Black woman, I think at times, for the majority of the time, it's going to be easier, and I appreciate relating to the Black man more than anything. Sometimes I feel like I would feel out of place if I dated a white man. And I guess a part of it does become, we do have different struggles. So it's like when he comes home from a bad day from work, am I going to be able to pour into him? I don't know the white man's bad day at work thing. But if I'm with a brother, I guess that is a little bit of a trauma bond underneath, because we're both African American. I know how it is out here. I didn't watch the same music videos, same reality TV, the same, we're coming from a lot of the same stuff. So when he comes home and have a bad day, we can have a different kind of discussion about what was it, what moves we gonna make, blah, blah, blah. So is that bonding over trauma?
Yeah, I think that's more, I agree, bonding is an aspect of it, but it sounds more like cultural bonding. It's just a lot of the things that we're into, the things that we've been through is just a facet of it. But it sounds like it's just overall, relatability. The police, as we said, police brutality, or job, or mom, or funerals, or all these things we grew up watching. And there's certain things that we do as Black people that other races don't do. Culturally, it's things that's understood, as that you said, like like the smell of a hot comb or something like that. We would know. We can use that as the example to say, you know, that smells like this. Another race won't get it. So yeah, there is some bonding on that behalf, but I think it's more of a cultural thing as the umbrella. And I think the trauma kind of falls under the cultural, you know, stem.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with that.
What do you think, Ryeal?
Yeah.
That's very well said. You're right. That does sound cultural versus necessarily trauma.
Exactly. Exactly.
So let's talk stimuli for a moment because, you know, Ryeal, you talk a lot about the things, like we had another show and he talks about all the things that happen chemically when we see somebody, when we kiss somebody, what we're really bonding over when it comes to that. So if you're experiencing repeated trauma and that makes you numb eventually, so what about the stimuli? People are becoming more numb to trauma because they're experiencing it constantly and not processing what behaviors come out of that need to feel stimulated or like an authentic connection to people. Like, how do you create that stimuli if you've kind of numbed out from repeated trauma? Because it seems like essentially that's kind of what we're looking for. We're listening to our body respond when we're meeting someone, connecting someone, or growing with them.
Yeah, well, first we just have to know what our repeating trauma, what that can actually do. Our emotional numbing is most often seen with post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Which is a psychiatric disorder that can happen as a result of experiencing or witnessing a trauma event. So knowing that the more we keep experiencing this event over and over, we become immune to it. And that's what happens when we're in relationships, right? We become immune to that trauma and we become, I used to say this like years ago, you know, we start to love it, right? We start to fall in love with the trauma and no longer in love with the person, but we're actually in love with the trauma itself. And that's what makes us become immune to that, right? Because we, you know, when we ask people, well, or we try to tell, girl, why are you still with him? Right? Because we don't really understand because we're not in that situation, right? We don't know how addictive this could be and how addicted we are to it, right?
Right.
And how immune we are to it, you know, so it becomes very addicted. And that's one of the major things that we have to watch out for. So when that post-traumatic stress disorder is attached to that too as well, all it takes is for that person to continue doing the same thing over and over again, which triggers your emotions all over again, you know. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, we did, because we kind of talked about that with Cyrus. It's like when you're doing this work with yourself, which we all should be doing on ourselves, you can't cut corners because cutting corners looks like a circle. And, you know, basically you're just going round and round with the same stuff.
And if you don't get therapy and get help, you know, because sometimes we try to deal with it ourselves. And today, I think it's really good to get some kind of help. You know, I'm not just saying just that therapy, but whatever treatment or therapy that you can get, I think it's very important. Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, no,
definitely.
I agree. What do you think, Cyrus? Because as a man, what do you think are some of the PTSD things that show up that men are avoiding healing? And then how are they avoiding that? Is it drinking? Is it sex? You know what I mean?
They're avoiding it. They're avoiding it. Man, I don't mean to laugh, but they're avoiding it in every walk of life. Like when you don't know yourself and you're not looking for yourself, you're going to look for every way out to not find yourself. So let me tell you something about my brother. My brother passed away, but he kept it. My brother is brutally honest. He said he was selling dope and, you know, crack and weed. He was running the streets, kids, sex, all that. He ended up having a stroke and he ended up being in the hospital, right? And he's conscious, but he cannot move. And he said for that moment, that was worse than him doing jail time. It was worse than anything. And I said, why'd you say that? He said, because I had to sit down and accept who I was. He said, all that time I was doing liquors, drinking, sleeping with women, and then I was trying to forget my life. Like I was sleeping with women, having, drunk, and then passing out. I didn't want to go to sleep because, it takes 5 to 7 minutes for some people to go to sleep. You got some thoughts, you going through some. I don't even want to do that. I want to crash. So he was figuring out ways to crash night after night after night after night.
Wow.
Because the more you crash, the more you don't have to deal with the reality of your life.
That's right.
So it became a lifestyle, just like anything else. We get up, we brush our teeth. It become a lifestyle. Now they get up, drink, smoke. I'm trying to forget my life like this, as fast as it starts. Then it becomes a repetitive thing. Before you know, they look up and it becomes subconscious. It's buried. They just start carrying on. Then when they have a conversation with somebody about uplifting things, then it can hit them a little bit different. It's just so deep. But people mask it in so many different ways. People mask it in working out. You think it's healthy to go to the gym for 7 hours in a day and now you just super buff and swole? Like, that's just more of an acceptable form of it. Smoking crack and weed and all that, that's considered, well, not weed no more, but smoking crack and heroin and all that other type of stuff is unacceptable forms of it. But it's tons of ways. Women is one, drugs is another, video games is another, working out. It's a whole lot of ways. So,
Wow, that was, well, first of all, sorry about your brother. I'm sorry to hear that.
I appreciate that, but it's fine.
It's such an amazing way to put it, because it's such an extreme case, and it's extreme for a lot of people, but it really puts things in perspective. That's exactly what's happening.
We
Ryeal,
all like to be. We all like, I'm sorry. We all like to be judgmental on people's outlets. That's what it is. It's comparative outlets. What are you doing, with your life? It's like that type of a conversation, because I believe I'm doing better because I work out for 7 hours and you play video games all day. Neither one of us is making no real progression, but physically I look better than you, therefore I'm better than you. So those type of things bleed into that PTSD and feeling as if I've made it further than you, et cetera, et cetera. But, I just wanted to drop that little piece in.
Yeah.
No, that's very true.
Wow. Wow, that's deep.
It really is. I'm like, you just threw something out there. So what do you think, right, when it comes to that, Ryeal? Like, again, when you deal with neuropsychology, if you're not seeing a therapist, what do you have to do? Just hit a wall before or is there something chemically that's going on? Sunny in the comments said, I suspect women are distracting themselves with the trauma of being with the man they gotta fix. Their alcohol, drugs, and distraction. That's true too. For women, definitely, I feel like women can avoid their healing and growth by diving into a man that they need to fix. That allows her to focus on him. And so, yes, I definitely agree. Sunny, thanks for sharing that in the chat.
Yeah, that's something that we call imago when we get with people. And some of our purposes of even just dating or getting with people is to heal something that's never been healed, that we've been dealing with as a child, or a traumatic event that happened in our lives. And we're hoping that in this relationship that we can actually get this person to apologize to us or to heal us. And then the opposite of that, of us trying to heal someone else. So we're not paying attention to our own pain, because what makes us feel good is the fact that we're helping someone. Because when we help someone doing things, we receive this rush of serotonin, right? And that rush of serotonin makes us feel good because we're seeing that person feel good, right? But we're not dealing with our own pain. It's just making us feel good, right? But we still have our pain, but we're making you feel good. And that's another reason why we bond to another person with pain, because I got my pain, but what makes me feel good being with you with pain is trying to help you and to heal you. But when you feel good, I feel good, right? But it's not taking away your pain at all. You still have that pain, and you will find that if you break up now, depending on if you're a narcissist, right? And if you break up, you still have that pain, because that's another reason too. We tend to our frequency we tend to identify someone else with pain. And most of the time, it's a narcissist, right? And when we are talking about trauma bonding, we get with this narcissist, and this narcissist, manipulates you into believing that I really like you, make you believe that, hey, you're the one, you're the whole, you're everything, you're my world, right? And you fall in that trap, and now you can't get out of that trap, right? So yeah, I can keep on going, man.
Yeah, that's very common, very, very common. My dad had 3 families. It was very common. I've seen it.
Woo!
Yeah,
Your dad was a busy man.
yeah,
Was a Rolling Stone.
yeah. And it's difficult to get out of a trauma bonding situation, especially when you're with a narcissist. I don't know if you were going to ask about the narcissist. I just brought that up, but I think it's very important to understand too when you're in that kind of relationship, because they're good. They're really good, like you said.
They're really good. You won't realize you won't realize until you hit that you're in one until you hit.
Absolutely.
Because especially depending upon our environment, but if you grew up without a father, sometimes you can gravitate towards male energy, like that certain strong male energy. And as you mentioned about a narcissist, I believe I've met a lot of them, and they can represent anything. They can morph into whatever they need to be to make you feel a certain type of way.
That's right.
So you won't even realize what is hitting you until it's already over.
That's
and
right.
As he said, it's very difficult once somebody like that jump on you, because I had a friend, I had a friend and I had a problem with him. Like, I used to argue with him all the time because he was so blatantly open. He used to be like, I'm only having sex with the girl, and he would tell him, he'd be like, look, I'm just only having sex with you. That's it. And he would have that conversation. Like, I'm not doing nothing else but having sex with you. Just let you know that early. And they'd be like, okay. But I was like, okay, if you're going to do that, I ain't had no problem with that if that's what y'all agreed upon. My problem was he would call her, see how she's doing, and then add to it. So he might call you and be like, what's going on? He'd be like, oh, I just got a flat tire. And then next thing you know, you get off the phone, he cash apps you $150. So it's just, I was like,
wow.
you do stuff like that. And then he'll have a girl spend a night, and then he's a very educated guy. So he will wake up, and then he's playing like Malcolm X speeches and stuff. I said, stop doing that. Because you putting her in a position of looking at you like a husband, you only having sex with her. And then, over time, he done had a couple Snickers put in his tank and all that. That's another story.
Yeah. Well, that's part of.
I said, you got to stop doing that. Stop representing the great man, the husband, because you care. You actually paying for their daughter's stuff. He teaching them about the stock market. He teaching them about life. He giving them real things, things that they can carry on for the rest of their life. Except he's like, I told you from the beginning it was just sex now. And I'm like, that's confusing. And he was like, well, she knew. I'm like, of course you told her, but you gave her a whole lot that another man has never. You taught her the stock market. You taught her about herself. You told her to put money up. You told her this. You taught her this. You taught her self-sustainability. And then now you're going to remove yourself. Man, that ain't right.
Yeah. And that's what they do when they get bored. That's the game of a narcissist is to treat you really good, show you that I can do this, give you things, give you knowledge, right? Because sometimes we have to be careful with that. What was happening? What was happening when she was being attracted to him playing what did you say? What was it that he was playing the videos of?
Like Malcolm X and stuff like that?
Yeah, Malcolm X, like a deep brother, right? And spitting some really serious knowledge, about our culture and everything. And so what happens is it's sapiosexual, right? So we fall in love with the person's intellect, right? So it's the same thing. She started falling in love with that intellect and also believing that you care because you're sharing this deep information to me. So you really care about me. because I don't get this information from other brothers. Other brothers don't sit down and break it down like you break it down. So now when we're talking about sapiosexual, then she starts to fall for not just the gifts, right? Because that's another thing that a narcissist gives. So what is he given? He's given the knowledge so you could be more attracted to me, right? And then once I got you, then I disconnect from you and I look for someone else to do the same thing with. Yeah.
It got so deep that he would recognize certain looks. He was like, man, I rolled over and she was looking at me deep in my eyes and I knew I had to cut. I was like, the look of when a woman falls. I was like, bro, you got
absolutely, because a narcissist, that's what they study. The narcissists study to know when am I saying to myself, I got her, right? And they perfect it. And it's really, and not only when it is perfected, but they become addicted to it. And it's second nature now. It becomes second nature to them. But the one thing about the narcissist is that you can't tell them that they're a narcissist, because they're not gonna, you're gonna be in an argument then.
Not him. He would know it. He'd be like, it was just crazy. Well, I mean, I grew up with him.
He will admit that he's a narcissist.
Yeah, he admitted. He'd be like, well, I don't care. It just for him, he just doesn't care. And I think it really happened because some things that got done with him with his family. So I'll leave that part out, but it's just like, I don't care. It is. I remember him saying literally, we'd be at his house and he ended up having this like penthouse and all this other type of stuff. And he would say it. He would say, I'm about to leave this house and I'm not coming back unless I got a girl. That was the mission. I'm not even coming home unless I got one.
Yeah. But most narcissists won't admit that they are. But if they do, they've moved to another part of narcissism, right? Yeah. And that is when they have no emotional intelligence, when they don't care completely. I mean, when they don't see anything. I mean, you could just cry and they have no emotions at all, right? And that's the danger too, because we have 3 stages of narcissism. And when we get to a psychopath, and that could also be part of what he is when he gets to that point where he just doesn't care, right? And I wouldn't be shocked if one of the ladies was crying and he did, and he had no emotions to it, right? He didn't say, "Hey, you okay?"
No,
hey.
And he
wouldn't do that, right?
She might say,
so most likely he's at the next stage of narcissism.
Yeah, he ain't doing none of that. She would say, a woman could say, like, I have a problem with you. And then he would say that, yeah, you sound like you have a problem. Like, what are you bringing it up to me for?
Wow.
That's your problem. I'm doing me, you do you. You do you. If you have a problem with the way I'm doing me, then take your problem across the street and find somebody else that can handle the problems that you want to discuss.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much
whole world.
But I mean, he's really, really good. This is the reason why I'm saying it, because he looked good to women. He was a model, worked out, financially stable, very smart, articulate, and he can get you. And I've seen it happen trillions of times. I just try and stop him from doing so.
Right.
Thank God we had a comment in the chat thanking you, Cyrus, for checking your boy on behalf of the sisterhood.
Yeah, you got to check them. We got to hold our friends accountable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I say friends and brothers loosely. So I talk to so many people and help so many people. I don't want nobody to know who I'm talking about. So I say those words very, friends, brothers, and stuff like that. So nobody can track. Oh, you talking about saying, what I mean?
Right.
Too many people listen to me.
Right. God, that's insane. And because we're talking about trauma, I mean, I don't know how all women are, but I know for me, for the most part, I'm not thinking about all that. I know there's like the art of seduction and all of this stuff, but it's just narcissism and this whole thing and functioning like that is such a poison. I feel like it's a poison flowing through the stream of everything because, women get damaged. Then they turn around and don't even know that they're damaged or do the work. And then the trauma bonding begins because you start to basically connect to men that don't treat you well because you're used to it. You have this yearning for this guy. He put you through the ringer of the back and forth. You loved him, you didn't, he was there, he wasn't. And now you're literally effed up. And then you go to the next dude after this one and left because you looked in his eyes and you're falling in love. And I think the cycle just repeats itself. And it becomes very easy to become bonded by either another person of the like or someone who has another issue deep within that you have, but weren't able to address within all of this mess. That's why I tell a lot of my girlfriends to pause. Like, we have to pause in between some of these relationships because I don't think people are getting the healing that they need to even move forward. I don't even think that our qualifiers for a relationship are on point at this point. So, Sunny in the chat said, Ryeal, are narcissists incorrigible?
Can you encourage a narcissist to become a narcissist?
No, I'm sorry. Did I say that right? Incorrigible. Like basically not able to be corrected or improved or changed. Like, can you even, like with Cyrus' friend that he was talking about, is there anything you can say? Do you think his words penetrated?
It's really difficult to change a narcissist.
That's the case basis.
It's really, really difficult. I mean, because once they are in that state of mind, we're still trying to find. I mean, if you actually ask any psychologist, neuropsychologist, is that something is that an easy thing to do as far as helping them to realize or to change? It's very challenging, and they're still trying to find out how. I think they're doing work on the amygdala part of the brain to see, because that's our emotional part, to see if there's ways that we could really change a narcissist. I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but that's
like doctors don't even know.
I think narcissists, from my experience of dealing with a lot of narcissists in my neighborhoods nationwide, is I think things happen to make their mind just broke. They literally, the way they process stuff, like how you can see somebody's process and how they build something. Like if I tell you to build a business, you might say, all right, I'm gonna get my LLC, I'm gonna do this, and their process to building it, whether it's right or wrong, you can see somebody's process. When I see some of the people that have narcissism, their process and their function is just off. And it's like, I don't care that the world think it's off. And I don't care who you are to correct my offness. Then they will say things like, we all die anyways. Who cares? I got a limited amount of time. So the end all be all is a inarguable statement. Like, you can't argue, all right, I'm gonna live how I'm gonna live and I'm gonna die regardless. Everybody's gonna die. You can't argue that. So that's like the things they rest on to end the conversation. And to combat that is to say, you need an answer for you're not going to die. You can't really, so they already have it figured out. So the answer to that guy's question, from my perspective as well as yours, doctor, is you're really not changing nobody that got to that point. I hate to say it that cut and dry. I know you may not say it as a doctor that cut and dry, but I'm not one. So no, I don't believe you can change somebody that got to that state.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, you're so right. I mean, it's very challenging. It's very, very challenging. But what we encourage is the person who's dealing with the narcissist that you should get out, because it's going to be a repeated cycle, just like you said earlier. That repeated cycle, and if you get addicted to that repeated cycle, if you get addicted to that narcissist where he loves me, because a narcissist knows, she's starting to notice, she's starting to disclose, she's starting to find out that something's wrong, and she's starting to work on herself. So what does a narcissist do? We go into the fifth gear and we buy you flowers, we send you candy, treat you really nice, get deep, play the Malcolm X recordings, you know, spit to you, start telling you, you know, really deep stuff, you know, taking you out so you can come back in. And so then what happens is this is what creates the opportunity to explain to your girlfriends, see, girl, you start to rationalize it. See,
Rationalize.
look what he did. Look, you should come over and look. He sent me 3 dozens of roses, not one, but
Mhm.
3, and also gave me a Malcolm X book. No, I'm just
Mhm.
saying.
Yeah, like, but it's a couple things that you'll know as a woman if you got conquered. And this is, I hate to say it like this, but you know, we on your show. You got conquered if you no longer trust your intuition as a woman, because y'all got this instinctual thing of knowing what's right. You
That's
can
right.
feel it. You feel it, but
Yeah,
now you no longer trust it. That means he was already working on you.
yeah,
Secondly, he's already working on you. Secondly, no matter what you do, you feel like, I don't know if this is right or wrong with him. Yeah, you know, when you're in that relationship, should I make? I don't
right.
know if he going. I don't know. I don't know where to stay. And a confused mind will always take the closest thing to right. Now, what's right?
God is
The
not the
closest thing
author
to
of
right.
confusion.
You know, yeah. So a
Right.
confused mind will always take the closest thing to right, not what's right. So as long as I keep your mind confused, I can convince you what's right. So now you
That's
no
right.
longer trust your intuition, and you're gonna walk on eggshells 24/7. I got you. It's over.
That's right. And discernment is one of the things that you women have, that God gave this gift to you.
Period.
I mean, you've had that discernment, you know, and that's something that's given to you way back in the primitive time, because it was very important for you to use that tool, because the husband went off to war, and it was easily for a man to come into your tent, right? You know, it wasn't like we had like several locked doors and all kind of locks and everything. But for a woman, you know, you had that discernment to determine and to feel that something's not right, right? And Cyrus, right? Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
Cyrus, and just like Cyrus said, you know, he doesn't want you to think on that. He doesn't want you to use that part of the brain. He doesn't want you to use. We have the part of our brain. We have these 4 different parts of our brain in our prefrontal cortex, and that prefrontal cortex is what allows us to it's our executive part of the brain that makes those decisions, right? And we don't want you to go there. We don't want you to use those parts of the brain, because you start figuring it out, right? You know, and we want you to always have that anticipation of, what is he going to give me now? Good. What is he going to do for me? Good. Like the slot machine. I don't know if you ever heard the theory of going to a slot machine. You know, you keep trying, but so every once in a while, I'm going to give you a whole lot of money. I'm going to give you something which going to
Mm-hmm.
keep you here, so you stay. You're like, oh, see, he loves me,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let me go ahead and keep on. Let me keep on doing this slot. Let me keep on. You
And
know, even though you don't know what's coming and you don't know when it's coming, all you know is that I hope it's coming soon,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
and the
yeah.
longer you sit in that seat, the harder it's gonna be to get up.
The harder it is, the
You know,
harder it is to get out of it,
I
because you become
remember.
immune to it. You become addicted to it, you know. And then we're talking about all of these certain chemicals that is being released, that when you become addicted to it. So we're talking about oxytocin, we're talking about serotonin, phenylethylamine, we're talking about vasopressin, you know, all of these things that bond us to someone. So all of those chemicals are bonding you to this person. So it's and those are natural drugs. Those are really deep drugs, but it's hard to get off, because just in general, being in a relationship, whether it's a narcissist or not, it's really challenging to break up, because you are so addicted to that person because of those natural drugs, right? So you still have to go through that stage of detoxing, right? So imagine being connected to a narcissist. That's very, very challenging.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, like you said. But the more you play that slot, it's harder to get up. And I remember even my dad telling me stuff. My dad told me a lot, you know. So I do tip my hat off to him, because he did tell me, even when things were wrong, he would even say, I shouldn't be doing this, but blah blah blah. But I remember him saying, he was like, me being in high school and dating somebody, and then I'll call them. I'm like, I don't think they're interested in me. He'd be like, did they answer the phone? I'm like, yeah. Oh, then you always got a chance. Don't worry about it.
Right.
That's simple. So he was like,
Right.
women time equate emotion. Said if you get around them long enough, they gon' have some form of emotion for you. And it gets so tricky that even some men will do things like, all right, if I know I'm gonna be away a long time, or if I know I'm gonna be moving around, I'm gonna give you a dog. I need somewhere to redirect your caring, like your caring
Yeah.
heart for something
Yeah.
that's connected to me. So let me name the dog and give it to you.
Yeah.
So therefore you can feel like it's our child. You know, it's
That's
little
right.
tricky things.
That's right. Absolutely.
Little funny things that get done.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I try and
Cyrus, you know too much.
I give it all out. I'll be like,
Yeah,
look, this is what
absolutely.
happens.
But it's the truth, though. I mean, it's the truth.
That's,
It's the
you
honest
know,
truth. I mean, those are some of the things that men do, you
Yeah.
know, and they try to figure out. Look, you got to think about this, especially just to get sex, just to get sex. Think about this. We are in training from grammar school on because we're trying to figure out, how do I get it? And so as you get older, okay, sex isn't that much of a problem of getting. But now let me go into training to figure out, how do I get your mind? So we're constantly in training for that.
Definitely. Think
So
about
what
how many
Cyrus is saying is so true, man.
Think about it. Think about it. What he said is 100% accurate. And all the women that's listening to this, whether it's now or, you know, in the future, think about how many men came to you and said that they wanted to do business and they really tried to hook up with you.
Yes.
That was their angle.
That's right.
Think about
Absolutely.
that was the angle.
Absolutely.
They never
Absolutely.
wanted to do business.
Absolutely.
Like sometimes I remember telling, dang, man, I'm telling this story. I remember telling somebody, I had to hurt their feelings to make the story make sense to them. They was like, you know, this artist want me to be in their stuff. You know, they want to sign me or whatever. I was like, the artists do not want to sign you. Like, they want me to come to the studio. They want to meet up with me. I was like, but you have no projects. You have no music. You cannot sing. Like, you don't have none of the criteria that matches being signed. They do the same thing with models.
I think we want the same person.
Yeah, they do the same thing with models. They do the same thing with artists. They do the same thing with a lot, where you have to be real with yourself. Keep it real as a woman and as a man, but be real with yourself. Sometimes the opportunity doesn't make sense based upon where you at. So if you just all of a sudden say, you know what, today you just say, I want to launch a perfume line. Then this guy that works for Estee Lauder is saying, you know what, I would love to meet with you. Why? Let's just keep it honest. You don't have enough to have that meeting with Estee Lauder at that point. You just started. Absolutely. So it's something else that he's seeing you, that he's trying to nurture up out of you, and he's just using this as a way to finagle you. So be honest with yourself, and being honest with yourself, you can avoid a lot, honestly. But it takes that honesty with yourself. Yeah, and you know, and that's something that this message is to men, is to be honest. It's to be honest, because you never know what that person may accept, right? It's so important. It's the joy and the maturity, the gift that you get from being honest, the gift that you get from being honest, and to know to yourself, guys, that there's billions of women out here, right? So if she says no, then you can move on and be honest to the next one. Or like your friend was, at least he was honest about saying, I'm just gonna have sex with you, right? Because he's given the choice to her whether she wants to deal with him or not, right? And so now the problem is with the women who get the truth and then stay with the guy, is also in her mind, I'm going to do what? I'm going to be able to do what? Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. See, now that's the problem, right? Because we do want you as a man to be honest, right? And
And you know, again, if she's not going to deal with that, you know, she may even introduce you to somebody. It's like, you know what, I know this guy, he's like so honest, you know, he's cool, but he's not for me, right? You know, but I like to introduce you to him, you know. And I think that that's a really good thing to do versus spending your time trying to get over it, like you're saying. But I have to say, Cyrus, I have never heard somebody say this exact story 100%, the exact story. And we won't say who it is, you know, but
Well, we
I
in LA.
knew someone that was the same thing. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I would just say, well, okay, I tell you what, let me hear your demo. Let me hear what he heard. So I could, you know, just give you some pointers. There was no demo. There was no demo. There was no, I was like, okay, but he's saying he's going to get you a deal because look, I was in the industry, you know, when I was younger, I was singing, you know, and still I work in the film industry as a consultant for relationships. So I know the industry, I know the music industry and the film industry. And I'm like, wait a minute, and like you said, I really didn't hear the talent that warrants you for a deal,
Being
for a
honest.
record deal, that, you know, you just didn't have that talent. I mean, you know, for somebody to just say, "Oh my God, I'll sign you," you know, we do have some people out there that you may hear, right, or that you hear now on YouTube or something like that. And you're like, "Wow, why isn't that person signed?" Right? You know, you have the ear. You're like, "Oh my God, this person is awesome," right?
And we can see
But
it.
you also know, wow, okay, you know, I doubt if this person gets a deal, right? You know
You
the
definitely,
difference,
you
you know.
definitely know.
Yeah.
And
So
you know in all walks of life. Like I
yeah,
played basketball my whole life. I can go look at a court and tell immediately who the best player out there
that's
is.
right. Absolutely.
Immediately. I can
Yeah,
listen to somebody sing and you can hear potential. You can watch their mannerisms and know. But anytime you're dealing with business, he knows, you know, we all know. It's an investment.
that's right. That's
It's
right.
all
Absolutely.
investment. We got and time is the biggest thing to invest, but it's an
Absolutely.
investment. So if you don't come with anything that equates what needs to be invested, you're not getting no deal.
That's
It's
right.
an angle. That's all it is. It's an angle.
That's
So
right.
don't
It's
fall
very
for that.
true. That
Don't
can be
lose sight.
subtle.
Yeah, don't lose sight of your own abilities. So it really takes that honesty within yourself. If you want to sing, that's cool. I'm never knocking that. Even if you're not
Right.
good, I'm never gonna tell somebody not. But just understand yourself. If they want to have that meeting, say, okay, and this has happened. Oh, let me say this. I tell women this. I said, if you're ever doing business, create a false email. So y'all write these notes down at home, women. Create a false email and put your brother's name, your dad's name, or anything like that. So when a guy talk to you and say, I would love to have a meeting with you, respond as your dad on the email and say, okay, I would love, I'm coming, blah, blah, blah. See how many people follow through. I guarantee that number is going to sink dramatically,
Yeah,
dramatically when they know that you're showing up with your brother, your dad, best friend, somebody like that, a male counterpart to analyze the deal to make sure it truly is business. If you do that, you'll weed out a ton of BS.
that's right.
Yeah, I
That's
used
right.
to carry an email like that. And I know a lot of us women talk about it. And sometimes, I mean, that's not a whole entire reason to get married, but sometimes we feel so excited when we have somebody because it's like, nope, I got a man. Like, we good over here because it gets very challenging. Like in the chat, Sunny says, yes, female complicity is part of the cycle. And it absolutely is. I'm totally guilty. I mean, nobody's really, you know, talk my clothes off for it, but I'm having phone conversations and being asked out to eat and all of these things. And I thought you was interested. You asked me about my business. I'm telling you, I have, you know, my stones, like we're doing this and that. And it becomes this different thing. Now you're trying to take me to dinner. You're buying me gifts for my birthday. And I'm legit confused because I don't know. I think sometimes I can personally be extra green. So it works. It gets you. It only gets you so far. But we definitely as women play a big part in it. You guys talked about intuition and I know many a times in life where I've heard the intuition and didn't follow it, and it didn't serve me, especially in these situations. So, and when you stay in a situation long enough, like you said, if time equals the emotion you can get from a woman, we're looking at a mess here. Like, we all need healing now because we done got entangled in, some stuff that it wasn't meant to be, just because the trickery of things and not knowing about neuropsychology and this and what men are doing or following our intuition has become this cocktail that, isn't working. So
I had this conversation with some friends, and this is a funny one. This is just more of a humorous question. And you can answer this, doctor, or you, Jaimi. And I asked my friends this: where do you think you would be in your life right now if you've never had sex? Usually with men, they be like, I'll probably be the president.
Right. Like,
all that time that I used chasing this person and going here and going on missions. Where do you think you would be in your life if you've never had sex?
Okay, Ryeal, you go first.
No, he already answered it for me. I think I would be president.
Dang, the coochie keeping y'all from being Obama?
I would have been running against Obama.
You know what? And I would be married. I'd probably be married.
See, and that can speak to the damage that chasing can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or, giving in and being complicit to a process and, getting caught up.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that because I had that conversation with my friends.
Yeah, I mean, serious. That's really serious. And also think about how much money you would save.
Well, for the guys, yeah.
For the guy, yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? For the woman too, though, because what you don't really realize is that, when I mentioned whenever a woman walks past a man, she's actually seeing one of God's commercials, right? And because it's a brand, it's one of God's brand. So what do we do though as a woman for our brand? Our hair, we spend money on, right? Our eyelashes, we spend money on. Our makeup, we spend money on. The facials we spend money on. The lipstick we spend money on. The clothes that we spend money on, because we're going to this club or the after hour. So both of us are really spending a lot of money because, we're hardwired. We're hardwired to have a need to belong, right? To connect, right? So what do we do to advertise ourselves? We spend money, So yeah. So if we never know if we didn't eat of the fruit, which wasn't really fruit, it was that was a story so we could tell kids, but it was really it was sex. It was sex. So, but because remember, the minute they had sex, Adam and Eve had sex, what was the first thing that they did? Clothe themselves, right?
Wait, they had sex? I thought they just bit an apple. Is this story deeper than what I've been told?
Well, first of all, there is no apple. And you look in the Bible and you won't see the word apple. Yeah. Right? Again,
the fruit.
I'm glad you said an apple because they upgraded the story in order to explain it, right?
Correct.
So, but knowing what nakedness was and what sex is, it was like, okay, so now we have to put some clothes on and we can't allow this to happen. Otherwise, you guys were doing fine until you realized what sex was, so you could just imagine Adam was like, yo, whoa, you kept this from me this long, God? Oh man, where you at? So
Adam better calm down.
Absolutely. I mean, just like what Cyrus was saying, look how much he probably accomplished until he figured out, oh, this is sex. Whoa, God was like, hey, wait a minute, you have about 100 more animals you got to name. I'll get to
That
it.
part. But see, that was the thing. Adam did his job before, well, it was really before Eve even came. God gave Adam something to do, and
Right.
he did it. And then he created her and brought her along. But yeah, you're right. If you just got all of this fruit out here or what, all of this thing, you're going to be distracted, and you're not going to get to the insect section later. You're going
Right.
to delay the process of the beginning of the world.
Right. Right. Hey, you
And it
forgot
is
about the
true
little
because,
bugs. Oh,
huh?
I'll get to it later. Yeah.
Yeah,
And we
because
do
even as a woman, I would say, I'll speak for myself, but I obviously having friends and discussions, everything does change after sex. And it does become, for us, unless we're in that space where we're functioning like a siren at the point and we're just like, I'm out here right now. And which is usually not the case. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But when it isn't, it doesn't feel great. If this man is not somebody that you're definitely with or in courtship with, or that's why it's so hard to deal with men, I think, as I get older, because it's like, what do you really want from me? I understand we may not know if we are going to be husband and wife in 2 seconds, but if it's not something that he's seeking, I then have to think about, do I want to put myself in a position for fun and pleasure, food and circus, whatever the case, and if I want to give up a piece of myself. But after that, everything changes. You're not going to really get vulnerability, intimacy. You're not going to be getting the depths from the woman, even if it looks like it. You can have the sex, but something at that point gets cut off, because there is almost like a shame involved, or a guilt, or a like, what now? Like, you didn't gave it all up. There's nothing left. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that analogy is perfect. You do kind of walk around now like, I don't know if this is, because you're all exposed. It just doesn't work.
Absolutely. Yeah, you totally explore it's and when that happens, it's just like, wow, what do I do now? Where am I at? Yeah.
There's nowhere to go. You're nowhere, and
Yeah.
you do nothing, because that's it.
Yeah.
Majority
Absolutely.
of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we both spend money,
True.
so
But
we both can be
too, I
rich. We
mean,
can all be rich. Going back to Cyrus's question, if we didn't have sex, that all that money we spend to attract, right? And us men too, we spend money to attract as well, right? We buy the
well,
cars,
yeah.
the watches, the shoes, the suit, right? So we still, and not only the money that we spend on you, but we spend money to attract as well. So, I think we would all be rich, right?
But
And
I would still spend the money I'm spending. I feel like I would. I love, half the
Yeah,
time people don't even see me. I just love being pretty in my house. I love having things that smell good. I love creating.
yeah,
I think I put out for that, whether it was about y'all or not, because I could
yeah,
be fine as hell, fit, have it all together. That still doesn't mean I'm gonna have a good man, or
that's a
yeah,
fact.
So investing in myself in that way has to be for me, because it really doesn't necessarily yield results. I mean, Beyonce been cheated on, Halle Berry been cheated. Like, you could look
yeah.
like,
It doesn't equate to a vitalized,
no.
cohesive working relationship. But we are hardwired to brand ourselves, absolutely we are hardwired, because we got to figure out how do we attract, and that's because, again, God is an entrepreneur, and his purpose is to generate souls. He gets rich, from a friend of mine, a family of mine, Penny. She said, yeah, we help God get rich, but I mean, I'm just paraphrasing, by the souls he get.
Mm-hmm.
And in my analogy, yes, God is an entrepreneur, and his purpose is to generate babies. Our purpose is to generate wealth, right? So he has to hardwire us in order for us to continue the brand, in order for us to connect and to procreate, right? And so that's really important. Sort of like, McDonald's, they're constantly showing commercials, right? And you would say to yourself, okay, McDonald's, I get it. I get it. You keep showing me these juicy Big Macs. You keep showing me these crispy yellow fries. You keep showing me this thick shake, right? It's like, I get it. I know that you have that. It's like, this is not for you anymore. This is for the people who are coming, right? This is for the newborn, right? And because you got to think about it, it's like 300 and something thousand people die a day, 100 and something people that die every day. Did I say die twice, or did I say born, right? Born, 300 and something that's born. So God gets a profit of 200 and something thousand, right? And because he knows that these amount of people who are dying, I got to replace, right? So McDonald's or any other store, any other restaurant, they know that how many people die a day and how many people are born. So it's like, hey, do you know we have a new stock in? We have another 150,000 babies born. So get ready for new commercials, right? So when it comes to us as human beings, God does the exact same thing. He's gonna constantly put it in our immune system, and we're gonna be hardwired to market ourselves so we can connect. So we will always try to look really nice, even if it's for ourselves. It's for ourselves, but it's also for
the commercial.
It's hardwired.
You're hardwired,
No, that makes sense. And I mean, it was God. He ordained it. He said he'd give us dominion over the earth, and we're supposed to come here and multiply and all that. So it's in there. Sonny said in the chat, so the women that haven't been cheated on, did they do something right, or were they just lucky? I don't know. What do you think, Cyrus? I don't know. I think, well, I have my thoughts, but I actually don't. Do I know any women who haven't been cheated on? I'm gonna think about that one.
That one is I love that question because it's so loaded.
It is very loaded.
Very loaded. It's so many variables to it. Like, I know people that are good people, quote unquote, that don't cheat. I know people that's bad people, quote unquote, that don't cheat. So I don't know how to use that as a measuring stick, because there's people that beat on a woman and don't cheat.
Absolutely.
He'll punch her in the chest and abs and legs and all that, and then she can cover up and come out and still have her makeup done and smile in your face, and you'll believe something to be true, but it's not. So, like, for example, we all see this entanglement stuff. You seen Will Smith's face? He looked hurt, like
broken.
And at first, I didn't know what to believe. I still don't know, because I was like, what do you do when you have two, like, award-winning actors and actresses? I'm like, they can act out any scene. I was like, I don't know what to believe.
Right.
But I'm like, if he was acting, he deserved an Oscar for that performance.
Right.
But on the outside looking
You'd be
in,
surprised at the Oscars, huh?
Yeah.
They'd be like, what?
On the outside looking in, remember, on the outside looking in, everybody perceptionally thought this was the ideal relationship.
Right.
Jada Pinkett was women's mascot. She is no longer women's mascot. You know what I mean? So when somebody mentioned that cheating thing, I think it's just so many angles that it's hard to like. Is they doing something right? Possibly. Is they doing something wrong? Possibly. It's person by person, because some people just don't cheat. It's just really not their area. They might have grew up a certain way. They seen their mom and dad together for 30 years, and they just don't look at it like that. They just really don't look at it. That doesn't mean that they're doing something right. It just means that cheating ain't something that they like to do. Some men, believe it or not, are just not hypersexual. They just don't. I'm cool. I can get one every month or so, and I'm good. Like, I don't need to go out here and get multiple women. Like, some of them is like that. So that's a hard thing to gauge. I wouldn't say they're doing something right or wrong. I would just say God bless them for getting into a situation that's great for them. Yeah.
Cyrus, I have to say thank you for being so transparent in that answer, because normally one would want to hear the negativity to the point where we are miseducated about what cheating is. And this helps or allows us to get into relationships to be cheated on, because we think a certain person, we try to label a certain person. Like you said, when we saw Will Smith, we said, oh, that's a perfect couple. And everybody's experienced this before. Everybody have experienced your brother, your cousin, your minister, right? Your uncle who you looked up to. We always, you know, you're at the picnic, you're at the family reunion, you're like, oh my God, no, not Mark, not Mark, right? Because we don't realize, yes, cheating isn't an excuse, because it's always a reason why. And I like to take cheating to a next level of education, to educate people about what that's really about. Because we've been so manipulated into, the minute we hear cheating, we think as the question, did somebody do something bad in the relationship to make him cheat? You know, and like you said, Cyrus, earlier on, there's so many variables when it comes to having an affair. And there's a difference too between girlfriend, boyfriend cheat, husband and wife affair, right? Because when you really say cheating, you're talking about a game you're playing that you're not married, right? So when once you're married, you're having an affair. So what happens? What causes this to happen? There's a variable of things. There is so many things. You can't lump one situation into all situations. You can't say, oh my God, Mark had an affair, and now you want to lump Mark into being a dog, or you want to lump Karen as to being a hoe, right? Because you don't really know how that happened. And that's what's really important, as to how did this happen? I know it happened. It happened. But how did it happen? Sometimes it can happen with a guy who didn't give himself an opportunity to detox from having multiple women in his life, right? He doesn't know what it's like to have one woman, but he thinks, since I met this woman, I love her, I'm going to marry her. But you never gave yourself an opportunity to be with one woman yet, right? You just jumped into this marriage and you never had an opportunity. So once you got into that marriage, that mannerism is still in you, right? To have multiple women. You haven't detoxed from that. So next thing you know, you're going to go back out and start doing what you normally do, because your immune system has been immune to having more than one woman in your life, right? So that's why it takes you should take your time before you jump into marriage. If you find someone and you know you're a guy who've had multiple women in your life, make sure that you can do this. Make sure that it's out your system of having multiple people in your life. One guy said on the Oprah show, I'm sorry, I know I'm just plugging McDonald's and Oprah on your show.
Oh,
They're
it's
not,
fine.
you know what? You got to email them and tell them to give some money to sponsor the show. So one guy was on Oprah and he said the reason why he cheated was he spent years manipulating people as a car salesman. When he retired, he had nobody to manipulate.
Well, poor him.
And that's what he did. He went out to try to manipulate somebody to fulfill his
addiction.
void of manipulating people. But I'm just saying, that's just one of the variables, right? That's just so many, right? Those are the two that I just named that are so many.
On top of that, people forget about the definition. Like, we all have different definitions of what it is. Like, the act of, like, so let's say you have your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatnot out there, and you check their phone and you see that they were in the shower, you check their phone, and you see that they were about to go have sex with somebody. You literally see the whole conversation and say, I'm about to go have sex with you, blah, blah, blah. You got pictures sent, all that. I look forward to our first time. And you caught it. And now you said something to them. Like, oh, blah, blah, blah. You go off. Is that cheating for some people? Because
Right.
I didn't commit to the act. I was going
Right.
to get over there and talk.
Right.
You're a cheater. You get
Exactly.
the label. It's right here. Cheater.
The point of the conversation is everybody's definition is going to be different. Everybody going to change it in different ways. Now, let's just take that same scenario and you go out and tell people, yeah, he was cheating on me. I seen the text message or whatever. And then that person, the guy or girl, going to go out and say, man, I didn't even do anything. She went through my phone and blah, 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 blah. So it gets too messy when you start talking about the variables behind those type of issues.
That's right. That's right. And I think it's always important to find out why, because if you don't find out why, if you just go straight to, oh, he's the dog, right? You break up, you get a divorce, you get into another marriage, and you cheated on again. And now you say men are no good. So you leave men alone. You start dating the same sex. Next thing you know, she cheated on you, not taking into consideration what is it something that I'm contributing to this. I'm not just saying it's just your fault. I'm not saying it's just your fault, but we don't take that time out to check self as well, because it's better to blame than to check self.
It's easier.
Yeah, it's much easier. I mean, I've never cheated on someone, but of course I've been cheated on. And it's interesting because, you can get caught up as a woman too, because it's like all of the whys, like, you shared, Ryeal, it's like both of you shared that there's different variables, there's different reasons. And sometimes when you feel like you love someone, you feel like you give them a pass. Okay. After the first time, you start to realize they have trauma that lies here. They have this, that did it. And you kind of start to give them concessions for their quote unquote bad behavior. It's been challenging to leave every time. However, what I'm seeing now that I would prefer, being that I'm a single woman, is a man who, and then we're actually talking about this on the next show, but a man who is preparing. It would be so nice to meet someone who is actually preparing for a relationship before they meet me. Then when they see me and they're thinking like, okay, but if you're disciplined on how much sex you're having and you're disciplined with how you monitor yourself, what you're willing to sacrifice and give up to even further yourself, do you have a little bank account aside, a little for the family? How are you preparing to become the man? And I don't want to say worthy because we're all worthy, but you know what I'm saying, for that type of union. It's next level. So it's going to require preparedness. So I don't know how many men are out there really thinking like, I'm ready. I want to settle down. Let me start acting like a married man now.
Look, this is about to be a deep statement, but it's real. It's a frequency. Like there's certain frequencies, a certain energy that you carry based on the things that you do. So one that don't know themselves, you're going to carry a certain frequency. As you get closer to knowing yourself per se, you carry a certain frequency. And the higher you get, it's kind of like a mountain. You can see further. So you can start recognizing lower frequency and you separate yourself from it. So you can start, as you ever been out and then you can feel something is about to happen at this place. And you leave and then you find out something happened. Because you can recognize the frequency. You can recognize. So the same thing happened with people. If you're running into a lot of issues, you run into this guy cheated on you, this guy cheated on you, this woman cheated on, like you was using, this person cheated, this person, I go here and this happens there. It may be your frequency. Like, how much are you stepping into knowing who you are? Your pros, your cons, how much are you stepping into it? Because I tell people all, when you look for it, like when you find yourself, it's about what are you interested in? How much are you pursuing it to some degree? Let's look at it from this angle. You want to be, let's just say, a talk show host. Let's say you want to be the next Oprah. I'm using that hypothetically. As you embark on this journey and you really locked in, people will start gravitating towards your life that you cannot predict. It's just some type of frequency that start elevating. And you'll realize that the man that operates at that frequency that you raise into will recognize you as well. When you were here, he would never have had no time for you.
And we wouldn't have seen him.
Certain frequency, it's just not going to happen, because a guy that let's just say operate as a high frequency, or a woman that operates at a high frequency, it's certain things that's going to turn you off by low frequency behavior. It's certain things, like if certain people show up and they see you, and it's no disrespect to nobody, but if I see you and you got a mini skirt on this little in the middle of the club, and you getting all the attention and you twerking on everybody, I'm not going to view you in the frequency as I could see this person taking care of my children. It's just not going to happen. But I say that on an easily distinguishable thing, but that happens on all levels. All levels. There's certain things that you may do, and I'm like, oh yeah, she'll never be my wife. Now I hit it, but she won't be my wife. And those are frequency things. So I often tell people, like, when you starting to find yourself, that's really what means. Like, at the end of the day, you got yourself. So how much are you trying to polish yourself? How much are you trying to raise your frequency? How much are you trying to be better than you were yesterday, and apply that mentality every day? So it won't become, I need this person to complete me. I need this guy, this woman to complete me, to make me who I am. Let me polish myself up and then share myself with you. And if you appreciate it, great. If you don't, it's fine. I know who I am. So that's the way I'll be looking at it. A little different.
Yeah. Is it okay?
Yeah,
I can add the science to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%, 150% actually. And it is so important to take out the time to get to know self and to understand self, right? As you mentioned, your frequency. And I think a part of that too is knowing your reticular activating system. Once you get to know your reticular activating system, it fades out things that doesn't belong in your system. So the more you get to know yourself, the more your body, the more the brain, you create neural networks in your brain, because the more you are knowing yourself, the more you're telling yourself who I am. And the more you create these neural networks in your brain, and your neural network says, oh, okay, all right, this is who I am. Okay, cool. This is who I am. And this is what I'm looking for. Great. And that's why it takes so much time. And it's so imperative to have a capacious mind, and not a vacuous mind, a closed mind, to get to know self and to understand self, and to use your mindfulness and to use your activating reticular activating system. Now, what is that, and what do I mean by that is, when you're focusing on self and focusing on what you're looking for and what you're not looking for, right? Getting to know your non-negotiable requirements, your needs and your wants, you're getting to know a little bit more about who you are and who you're going to hire, right, into your business, right? So reticular activating system is something that you said too earlier, Cyrus, when you mentioned, just paraphrasing, when you say, oh, wow, you start to notice that you are being drawn to the person that you're really looking for, right? Or you start you notice when people are coming to you that that's not the person that you should be trying to come on to. You can feel it, your spirit, right? That's part of your spirit, and that's part of your amygdala, because I'm trying to connect yours, Cyrus, because your frequency, the frequency that you're mentioning, is part of our amygdala that takes care of us, that protects us. The amygdala, when you walk on the edge of a mountain, or if you've ever been on top of a roof, or if you've ever walked on the edge of something, what happens? Pulls you back, right? You go, whoa, right? You even make the noise, whoa, whoa, right? You could even be in a building and go close to a window, see its tower or something like that, right? You go, whoa, right? Because the amygdala is there to protect you from falling, right? So that frequency is there to protect you, because now you've conditioned the frequency. You've strengthened your frequency. You've educated your frequency. You've now told the frequency, which are our neurons, right? These little pieces of tape with information on it. You've given your brain this information. And so the brain now creates a network of what you're looking for and what you're not looking for. So now you're right, Cyrus, because when you walk up to a person, what actually happens is that frequency, what happens to the frequency? The frequency, I mean, what's going on in the brain when the frequency cuts on? When the frequency cuts on, it cuts on the amygdala. And what it does, it causes the amygdala to be aware, mindful. It wakes you up, and it wakes up your prefrontal cortex to evaluate the situation. So what it does is it does a body scan of that person instantly. This is regardless whether you want to do it or not, the body is going to do it. It's going to do it either positively or negatively. That's why it's so important to everybody, to what Cyrus has said, to focus on that frequency, because that frequency does so many things to the body. It cuts on your amygdala. That's the fight or flight, right? To tell you whether you're in danger or not. So when that person comes in front of you, that the frequency cuts on the fight or flight, and it tells you that this is not a good person. That's why we say this. What do we say? It's something about this person that I don't like. I don't know what it is. That frequency cuts on the amygdala and tells you it's danger. When it says it's danger, the prefrontal cortex, remember when I said it's the executive part that causes you to have the executive decisions. The prefrontal cortex comes on, and then it says, let me check this out and see. You're right. You're right. This person, we need to move on, right? So now we have to learn how to be more mindful of what the body is telling us, of what the frequency is telling us. We have to be mindful to be able to listen to what it's telling us, because it's telling us. It's going to tell us. What happens sometimes too, what we do is we ignore the frequency. We ignore the science of it because the symmetric symmetry is so beautiful. The symmetric symmetry is so handsome.
Fine though.
He is so fine, right? The symmetric symmetry, the body, she's got that body, dude. Man, look, it's something about her, man. It's something about her, dude. But dude, that body. So we ignore the signs that the frequency is telling us, right? Because those several parts of our brain is cut on naturally. What it does to protect us, right? And just people, when I talk to the reticular activating system, is I have people to do this. I have people to look out and concentrate on your thumb. So whenever you concentrate on your thumb, you notice everything else around your thumb is out of focus. Yeah. Right? It's blurry, right? Because you're focusing on your thumb. When I say focus on your thumbnail, when you look at the thumbnail, everything is even more blurry, right? Because you're focusing on that. So so the car that you want to get, right? You focus on that car, right? And what happens now when you go driving? When you go everywhere, you see that car everywhere. But now you realize you just condition your brain what to focus on, right? So it fades out other cars. You don't even see other cars anymore. You don't see cars as the car, just checking out cars. You know now what you want. You're in the focus now. You understand. And that's when you now you're connected to that frequency. The frequency is working for you, right? And it's cutting on those several brain regions of the brain. So that's the science of it.
Great breakdown.
I love that. What'd you say, Cyrus?
I said that was a great breakdown.
Yeah, that was an amazing breakdown. And before we get out of here, because I want to be respectful of your time, I wanted to share that Sunny put. So the reticular activating system is a diffuse network of nerve pathways in the brainstem connecting the spinal cord, cerebrum, and cerebellum, and mediating the overall level of consciousness. So I guess the big takeaway here, because I know when you journal and when you write things down and when you meditate on things, it really does put things into your RAS, the reticular activating system. And so I guess a big takeaway could be is what we could do to, in Cyrus's words, raise our frequency, and in your words, invite in and attract what it is we're looking for, is to be extremely mindful of not only the science of our body and how we respond, and being able to understand our bodies and responses, but also being very intentional about what we put in our RAS. So we are putting ourselves in alignment to attract the things that we say we want. You know, if you wake up every day and give yourself a vision of who you would like to be, or who you see yourself being in 10 years, 5 years, successful, or whatever it is, and you have that vision, you now give yourself something to look towards. And it's almost like seeing the blue car. Now I'm seeing this, you know, this bomb suit, or me cooking in the kitchen for my husband, or me waking up at a certain time because I'm doing that, whatever it is you want to do to create what it is that you see yourself in the future for your utmost. We got to start doing that now.
I don't mean to cut you in, but I just wanted to make sure I tell Cyrus thank you, because he said that was deep. And I want people to know that I didn't just hear it and just say, oh yeah, but so thank you, Cyrus. So go ahead. Because I didn't know if he was gonna say, so thank you everybody and see you later. And I was like, oh no. I wanted to say thank you, Cyrus.
I wasn't gonna do that.
So thank you, bro.
I know we was wrapping it. I appreciate you. I appreciate both of you. You know, so no, I get it. You know, I also want to say one thing people can do is, in this process of understanding self, I know I said it on your show before, but I say this all the time. When we start understanding ourselves, we have precautionary things to protect ourselves from ourselves. Let me break this down. When we go to school as a kid, we get taught fire drills. You know, when the thing get pulled down, we all got to walk out a single file line. We go here. We get taught what to do. And in Ohio, we have tornado drills. So we had little drills to tell us what to do in the behalf of something happening. The same thing we can do even with ourselves, but we forget it. When we have little things that trigger us, to bring up that trauma, to bring it back to the trauma, or that the things that happen to us, what is your fire drill? What is it? The fact that you don't have one says that you're going to panic, and panic never helps. People drown off panicking. People, you know, burning the fires off panicking. They don't care who they got to run over to get out, when they didn't realize that going in a single file line and things like that would have helped everybody. The same thing happened. Even I just seen this thing that happened with a plane that caught on fire or whatnot. And a lot of people in the back died. Now ask me why. Why did the people in the back die? It's because the people up front was grabbing their luggage and slowed down the whole line for people to, you know, they wanted to make sure they got their stuff. So it was nothing put in place. So the same thing happens to us as people. When things happen, what do you have in place? And as your frequency raises, you start realizing that you got these things naturally in place. Like somebody say something crazy to me, man, I'm not about to entertain that. When prior to, you might have got into a fight, you might have argued with them, you might have wrestled, you might have did something, you might have matched their frequency. And I say this all the time: a negative person lived there, you just visited. So you can't win that. So I just want to say that, because at times people can forget that you can put protocols in place to help you when you start to tank. Because we all go up and down. Like my background is depression and suicide prevention. So we all go up and down. Every last one of us. It's times that we, you know, figure out we should quit this. We don't know what we want to do in life. We don't know what direction we want to go. Everybody goes through it. The thing is what do you put in place when you start to go that way to make sure you come back up to that high feeling per se. So I just wanted to say that, because I know it's a lot of people down here that's going to listen and they hear a lot of information we spew. And I don't want nobody to feel like, oh, they said a lot, but that doesn't apply to me. I can't change. Yes, you can. You can raise your frequency. You can put things in place to ensure that you know what to do when the trauma triggers and depression hits or suicidal thoughts come. There's things you can put in place to ensure that you don't go deep down that path.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree. That's beautifully said. And, you know, I love that, Cyrus. Yeah, you can put something in place. I've had to teach myself that. It's like, you could be at a 10, but you don't have to go to 1. By the time I hit 7, it's like, like, now you need to, you know, take your nap, get your, or whatever it's going to be, you know, and change, because that's, it saves you. So I love that. So, you know, before we get out of here, Ryeal, did you have a last thought on the overall conversation?
No, but just to say, you know, prepare ourselves. Preparing yourself is to prevent repairing yourself.
Oh, yes. Preparing yourself is to prevent repairing yourself.
Yep.
And with that being said, y'all get prepared out there, okay? There's YouTube, there's so many tools, language, everything that you can attach yourself to just put yourself in a better position. Because when we're focused on self-mastery and we're growing and evolving our minds and having these conversations, it just helps everybody, from relationship to business to relationship to family, romantic, whatever it is, everything changes. And that's why this is important. So I want to thank you guys so much and thank you, Sunny, in the chat, for sharing that too. Thank you guys so much for sharing your wisdom, taking your time. It's extremely powerful. If one person's life can change, you've done something amazing. And I definitely think anybody who is watching has evolved just a little bit today. So thank you so much. And
Yeah. Thank
we'll
you.
definitely
Thank
do
you.
this again. Thank you guys for tuning in to King Speak. We got Cyrus Ausar. You guys can follow him on Instagram. You have that there, and on all the things, actually. And same with Dr. Ryeal Sims. Plug that into Facebook and you'll see him there. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning
Once
in.
again, I appreciate y'all, and I'll be following you, sir.
Yes. Yes. Me too, as well. Yeah. So anytime you guys do something else, hey, I'm there.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so
Except
much.
brunch,
Cyrus.
since we can't do that anymore.
Cyrus is a deep brother, so thank you so much. I'm
Yeah.
honored to be on the same stage with him. So that was cool.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
I love it. You guys are amazing. Your work and everything that you do is amazing. So thank you.
Yes.
All right.
All right, you guys. Take
All right.
care and
See
have
you
a great
later.
rest of the day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye now. All right, guys, thank you again so much for tuning into King Speak. You'll want to make sure to stay tuned for our next episode, which is going to be the power of preparation. We're going to talk with Ryeal Nate Harris, and he's going to tell us all about the power of preparing to be in a relationship and what that means to a man. So that way he's finding the right mate and, in alignment with everything that is important before doing that. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're not following Kings Speak on Instagram, please do so. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Mine here, follow me, and we're going to continue having these transformative conversations with men so that we can learn, grow, evolve, and harmonize. All right, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next episode.